Here we are, Game 6 of the 1968 Candidates Tournament between Victor Korchnoi and Korchnoi-Tal. And now in Game 6, Tal is down 2 games to 0. And Korchnoi made an interesting statement, and that he said after Tal had lost in Game 5, um, Korchnoi said 2 defeats in a row could dishearten anyone but Tal. Says he came to the 6th game with a very concentrated and determined look. Then he says I had a 2-point advantage and of course could choose a more conservative tactic. He said, but I played white, Korchnoi speaking, and the temptation of essentially finishing the match immediately was too great. He says if I won my 3rd game, I more or less won the entire match. And we're gonna go to this position. Okay, so we have like this Catalan set up right here. Again, Korchnoi is white and Tal is black. We're going to go to the position in question. So here, Korchnoi basically says that his advantage is clearly visible. He says not only because of the C7 pawn's weakness, but also because of the black queen's very uncomfortable position. And then he says with 18, that's what move we're on, rook d1, he said I could present various very serious problems. Okay, so then he says how is black supposed to save his queen after h2 h3 g3 g4 and knight c4 e5. Okay, so he says, and he decided to catch the queen straight away, so he's feeling good, figures he could finish the match off with a 3rd win. And so he goes for it. So here Korchnoi played the move h3, and this gave Tal counter chances. Better, of course, was just keeping everything under control. Was just rook d1. White is just better. Okay, it's not long term, here, but white is better and gonna be better. Instead, Korchnoi failed to sit on his hands and he rushed and played h3. And this gave Tal a chance to strike out. Tal played rook takes d4, and again, the soundness of it or not is up for grabs. Of course, he could have played knight takes d4 here. Right, knight takes d4, rook takes d4, bishop e3, driving him back, and then rook d8. And after g4, white is still better. I mean, practically, it's to give up the piece. Where's the queen? Where's the queen going? So, for instance, queen g6 is met by knight e5. Queen h5. Queen h4. Again, met by knight e5. So, white is in all kind of trouble there. So Tal opts for the move rook d4, not giving white the initiative. So here g4 was played. Again, now if knight takes d4, let's say queen b2, black has bishop c3 with the idea of queen takes c3, knight e2. Again becomes very double-edged, and again this is like a Tal type position, so you can see the struggle of styles in the match is players trying to impose their will on each other. Like what type of game will be played? Are we gonna play a game of chess 960, or are we gonna play some classical Russian chess? That's what Korchnoi wants to play. Tal wants to play chess 960. So going back, Korchnoi inserts the move g4 here. Now the queen goes to c5. Now better than g4 probably because g4 does add a little more weakness to the white king position. which you might not want to do against this player. Uh, move like knight c5 is possible, right? Forcing the trade here, and then taking the rook. Now, black still has some compensation, but notice the knight can't be taken on d4 because the rook is hanging on c8. And it's an interesting position right here. I don't think Tal has as much play in this position as he does in the other position. But the game, looks pretty equal for me as that the black definitely has compensation for the exchange. It's really hard for the rooks to get through, and shine in this type of position. Anyway, Korchnoi threw g4 in the mix and moved the queen to a good square, basically threatening the piece. So now knight takes d4, and of course Tal doesn't care about the exchange here. That's why he gave it up in the first place. What he's getting is a lot of piece activity. There's a threat. Bishop b2, e5, and notice how he begins to solidify his pieces in white's territory. Bishop takes d4, rook takes d4, queen g3, queen e6, threatening the knight on c4, queen b3, and a5, again solidifying the black pieces in the territory. There's c5. So you can see, yes, white is up the exchange, but there's no open files for the rooks. Okay, and look how powerful the bishop is on b4. Knight e3, bishop c6. White's only real plus in the position is d5. Rook d1, g6. Of course, exchanging on d4 is just going to strengthen the black pawn position. f3. And now Tal makes a bold move and decides to push this pawn forward. Now, this is a risky decision, but again, it fits with this style perfectly because Tal wants to win. It's not enough for him just to hold this position and draw, right? So he takes some chances. He plays this move. And really, for white to realize anything, he has to play this move that might be counterintuitive at this point because who wants to connect these pawns like this? Like who in their right mind wants to do that? But the knight takes c4, bishop c3, knight bd2, and now knight d7 with the idea of hopping into c5. And I mean, white has good chances of still holding this position. Okay, black definitely has more than enough compensation, but for instance, knight c5, bishop f1, the pawn is held up effectively, and I don't see black with any kind of big time advantage here. Like white is on the defensive, but he's holding. Okay. And the draw would suit Korchnoi fine at this point. However, instead of exchanging that rook, again, it's counterintuitive at that point. He plays queen e2. Now just bishop c5 from from Tal. King h1, and now c3. Knight c2. Now he picks up the other pawn, and now his advantage begins to take on decisive proportion. f4, rook takes, and bishop b6. Tal played bishop c5 here. Now, bishop c7 is interesting as it puts more pressure on the f4 pawn and forces this move pretty much f5. And then queen a2 attacking the rook. Is interesting way of maneuvering the queen into white's position. So rook e1, Let's say queen b3, rook e3, trying to win this pawn. And you see this constant harassment by the black pieces on this pawn right here. And the harassment is such that a move that white would normally like to play, queen takes c3, is not possible because knight takes e4. So black just does a good job of keeping white honest and tied up in the position. Is f5, queen d7, queen takes c3, and there we go, an analogous variation where the c pawn falls, but now the e pawn falls. Queen takes e5, bishop d6, queen takes a5, and now bishop c7, queen b4, and now very strong move, queen d3. And unfortunately for Korchnoi, the move knight d3 is just very powerful. If he tries to, play like king g1, then the knight is gonna fall on c2. So there's really no way out at this point. Um, let's just make a random move to illustrate. Let's say rook c1, knight g3 can be played, but also just simply queen g3, which threatens mate at h2 right away. And then how do you defend that? Except by playing a move like queen b8, which is ridiculous, or queen f8. Okay, so Korchnoi finally falls to Tal's fury here. In game 6, very hard fought game, and this game must have hurt Korchnoi because he had a great position here and probably should have went on to at least draw the game, if anything. Like he shouldn't have been in any kind of trouble, but he played basically this move right here, and I think rook d4 more shocked him more than anything, because he still shouldn't have lost after this. But the psychological blow, the fact that he allowed this to happen, probably threw him off his game, which led him to play g4, weaken himself a little bit, and then slowly but surely, again, Tal being Tal. Again, look at the pieces. You see the pieces, on the black side, just they're just encroaching on white, and having a powerful effect on the position. You can't even really tell that black is down the exchange here. So brilliant game by Tal, and at this point, after game 6, it was 2 games to 1, Korchnoi leading.